Welcome everyone to the video, and today we are going to talk about the best ice teams for different content in the game. Now we have the Starks as a faction, but before we talk about the Starks, we have to talk about an important character in the ice team, and that is the newly revamped and buffed Lord of Bones. Now, Lord of Bones has a fast speed move, AoE ice, bonus damage if brittle. But what's really good is when all enemies are defeated, you have a 100% chance to become afflicted with one ice. So this is a must-have character for the Rob's War event. We're going to talk about Rob's War, we're going to talk about Dragons, and we're going to talk about Raid. Now, for Lord of Bones, for Raid, he would be more on an offensive-minded Stark team for more ice being accumulated. There are offensive and defensive Stark teams, which I will get into. For Dragons, I would not use him for Dragons. He is an epic, so he is too squishy. Let's talk about the Starks. Okay, so for Rob's War, these are the champions of Rob's War that are going to serve you extremely well. You have Ned, who is going to inflict all enemies with one ice. And also when he taunts, he has the ability to inflict targets with ice as well. So he is going to be super important for the Rob's War event. The other character who is a gem in the Rob's War event is Jon Snow, King in the North. King in the North he gains stamina when someone's afflicted with ice, which is great, and his move does pretty much 5 ice spread around. So it's very important. Now, with the Starks, they have the brittle and ice mechanic. Now, brittle is when you get someone to 5 ice, and once you're brittle, you stay brittle. They can remove ice stacks, which will reduce damage overall, but they will still remain brittle. So, let's talk about Dragons. And if we're talking about Rhaegal, this is the must-have character for Rhaegal. You need to have her at 4-star. When you have her at 4-star, when an ally is debuffed, she makes Rhaegal brittle, immediately. She makes him brittle immediately, as we've seen in videos. Sansa is an amazing character for the team. For the other characters like Drogon, Viserion, you really can't use the Starks. You need to use the greens. It's too important. But my man Jon Snow is excellent against Drogon with his move that gets him brittle. So that is very effective. You also have Caitlyn, who will heal and afflict ice, which is very important for the Dragons to give you a little bit of boost. She is the best single target heal in the game. You need heavy hitters and you need ice makers. Theon is both. Theon is an ice maker who has a chance to do 2 ice if his move is done first in the turn. And he does a ton of damage. Also, when an enemy becomes brittle, he will attack them for 125% physical damage, and he is fantastic on the team. Ghost is a great damage dealer. He does not inflict ice anymore. However, you will get him in the King in the North summon, so you just need to have enough ice makers in order to use Ghost. If you don't have enough ice makers, then Ghost is not going to be used. Another great character for the Dragons is Robb Stark. Anytime they use their skill, he's going to afflict them with 1 ice. And if the enemy is brittle and they use their skill, he's going to gain a whole bunch of stamina. His move will stun for 2 turns the enemy, and he does a ton of damage. So he is useful there. Now, for the tower, For the tower, these are the characters that I recommend for the tower. For the tower, I recommend Theon because Theon can be used for 2 towers. So I recommend him for the Night Watch tower, and I recommend him for the Stark tower. He does a ton of damage. He is going to be your main damage dealer. For the tower, Sansa is amazing. As you can see, mine is 5-star level 180. When the debuffs happen, she grants Renew. Renew is a buff that it has a max stack of 10, and every Renew gives you 1 max HP per turn heals. So her special move also can grant 2 Renews to the whole team. Yes, the whole team. So what you want to do is you want to stall out the first wave, get as much Renews as possible, and then hit the second wave hard. Now, for that event as well, you're going to want to use Ned. He is fantastic for the tower. I also use King in the North, Jon Snow, who's excellent in the tower. When you have tons of Renew, I also use Catelyn Stark, who she will give heals and also make ice. So I definitely use her too. She's super useful. I don't use the other Starks really in the tower. I'm sure you could use Robb and Talisa as well. Ghost can be used too because it is a long-term game and you can get enough ice on them. But let's talk about Raid, because Raid is super important and a lot of people use ice teams. Now, the commons and the epics have gone down in value. I feel like with the Starks, there's 2 types of teams. You can make a super defensive-minded team, or you can make a super offensive, aggressive team. Now, if you want to make a super defensive team, you use Ned Stark lead, which will give everyone 1 ice. Then you use Sansa, who will be giving the Renews and ice when someone is debuffed. Then you want to use Robb and Talisa, who anytime an enemy uses their skill, they're going to grant 1 ice to the person that uses their skill. So right off the bat, if you use Robb, Talisa, and Ned, someone uses their skill, they have 3 ice. If they use their skill and they inflict debuffs, Sansa gives them 4 ice. So right there, you have a great move right there. Robb hits super hard. Talisa has the ability to, with a fast speed move, she's going to grant the strongest ally taunt for 3 turns. Then she's going to heal a target ally for 15% max HP and remove all damage over time effects on them. Now, why is this important? Well, Ned has a slow speed taunt. But if you use Talisa, usually, unless you use Caitlyn, because a Caitlyn and Ned at the same level, Caitlyn has more health. So most likely she's going to get the taunt. But if you use Ned without Caitlyn, Ned is probably going to be the strongest leveled character and get the taunt. So when people attack him, he's going to inflict ice back at them, which will stall enough turns for Ned to do his regular 6-turn taunt. So Talisa also has the ability that when an enemy is brittle and they use their skill, she's going to heal her leader at 6-star for 10% max HP. So Ned, if he is your leader, he is going to gain a lot. Then you have Sansa creating the Renews, which are going to be a pain to deal with. Then I would think in this team, you could either use King in the North to generate tons of ice. Tons of ice is going to happen, so everyone's going to be brittle, and it's going to be a pain to deal with. You could also go with Theon if you want more aggression. He'll also give ice, But I think that the way to do this is get them to have the enemy use their move. Now, in all fairness, these teams are granted if you have them at high stars, high level, and high gear, because you're going to be facing tough teams. So this is the team that's going to need to work. Now, if you have Talisa, Rob, and Ned inflicting all this ice, King in the North is going to be ready to go. And again, he will do 1 ice to the target, and 4 random enemies are going to get ice. So you're going to get tons of brittle opponents, which is going to make Talisa and Rob on fire, do crazy amounts of damage, and make them brittle. Now, my team, if I was going to make a Stark Ice team, it would be more aggressive. And it's not the best team because it does have an epic, but I would be using my Lord of Bones to get ice out there fast. I would team him up with King in the North because that AoE ice and Ned's ice to start the match is going to get lots of ice going. Then I would use for the team, I would use Cat because she's 7 stars, and when someone drops below 50% health, she's going to heal them and afflict ice with a chance for an AoE ice. And then I would use my man Theon. When anyone becomes brittle, they're going to be hit hard. And then he has a fast speed move, which does a ton of damage and ice as well. So yes, there's an epic in there, but I feel like this is going to be the faster, more aggressive ice team. On defense, you could probably pick it apart easier. That's why the defensive team that I mentioned with Rob, Talisa, Ned, Sansa, and King in the North, that team is probably going to be very devastating and very hard to deal with on defense. So these are the ice teams. Definitely for the Starks. You could use Arya too, but she doesn't inflict ice, and I like the ability to inflict ice, and the Starks now have less ability to inflict ice, and you do need her at high stars for her to be effective. But Sansa is truly amazing. The Tower MVP, the Rygel MVP, the defensive team MVP. You could get her at 4 stars. That's all you need for Tower. She is phenomenal. Just overall, I think that Battle of the Bastards Jon Snow has potential, but because it's an event character that's not going to be seen as much unless you wail on him, I don't see him being a big part of the meta. But Rob and Talisa, if you do get them high, they can be quite devastating in defense. I recommend everyone to get Theon because Theon can be used for 2 towers. He's great against the dragons, and he's great in either an offensive or defensive raid team with the Starks. So that is my video on the Starks, the best teams for the modes. Comment below and let me know what you think, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Take care all.